You're listening to FFOP Radio.
Reach the and welcome to the show. My name is Dave, and this is Everything Everywhere, the show where everything, it's implied by the title from FFOPradio.com. I don't think I say that enough. Maybe not in the last 20 shows. So yeah, that's where to get it if you're interested in spreading the word. Guys, you've read the title. Let's get right into it. He's back on the show. You know him. You love him. We love him. Mathew Blade's back on the show. Hey, what's up, buddy?
Man, look at us reuniting, and it's good. It's good to connect and record. This is truthfully, I don't know if you believe me or not when I tell you this, but this is going to be the very first time I've laid down my voice in some sort of a recording capacity since I left the radio. So.
Really?
Yeah, this feels all right because the podcast is out and I'm doing all that stuff right now, but I did all of that. That was all done months ago. So
okay.
Yeah, this is since my last show on Mix December 10th, this is the first time I'm really sitting down to do an audio thing with somebody. So I kind of dig it.
Well, I want to know how it feels, but let me introduce Chris over there.
Hi, I'm over here.
This is audio, so no one can see her, but there she is. I pointed at her. Trust me, audience. Wink. So let's crack it open, man. After the leaving of the radio station, how is it feeling now that that's no longer something like a daily thing?
It's a wild experience. For anybody that's ever walked away from their career. You know that there's a lot of things that come along with it, right? Mm-hmm. There's every day is all the things. Right. Every day has the moments of we're going to be perfect and this is going to be incredible. Mm-hmm. It's filled with moments of is this going to work? But I will tell you, it's never filled with I shouldn't have quit my job. Mm-hmm. There's never a time where I feel like that was a mistake. I know full well that this is where I'm supposed to be. Now it's just about sort of navigating those new entrepreneurial waters to understand what's going to fit for me full time. Because I don't have a schedule anymore. And so It's like, do I wake up and what do I do and where do I go? So I'm navigating a lot of new space for me because, for 27 years it was a morning show and there's structure is a great word. There's a lot of structure in that life.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. And I not to say that this is anything like to the capacity that you're experiencing, but when I did my show for the first run, and it, like you said, I did it very structured, like a radio show. I had segments for news. I had segments for creeping on Craigslist. We had joke bits and we had planned musical breaks and yada, yada, yada. And then when that vacuum is created, when you had that ritual, you'd go into a whoa, a little bit of a tailspin. And now I'm barely now pulling out of mine because something I feel like has grabbed hold. I think you and everybody else who's been on this show in the past 6-8 months, so everybody, have been so incredibly receptive and friendly and creative and everything that I feel like that's taking hold again. But it's not the same feeling. It's something completely different. It's not as cheesy as I'd like it to be is the problem. But
need more sounds.
Yeah, I wish there was more sound drops when we did the news and all the other jokey bits. But for what it is, it's blossomed into something different, but still enjoyable.
Well, that's good. I mean, seeing as how you're the host and everything, it should kind of go in a direction you'd like to see it go, right?
Yeah, but the point is, I get where you're coming from when you're sort of rudderless and you get that feeling of uh-oh. Now what?
Mm-hmm. Well, and I'm just in a space that I haven't been in a long time, and I think this is certainly true of anybody who's gone back to school as an adult, right? I find myself in speaker school, right? I find myself with assignments and tasks and things that I have to complete on time, and and then I'm trying to build out one sheets and media kits, and oh, by the way, what's your color scheme going to be for your website? What?
Yeah.
I mean, these are problems I never even considered before because you always have a machine doing all the work for you. But I'll tell you, it's cool, man. And like I said, I don't think twice about it. But it is definitely a very cool and new headspace. And I literally just remind myself every morning when I wake up that this is what I asked for, this is what I wanted, and now I got to make the best of it.
It's a wild thing because you can take on something as simple as a hobby or something as expansive as this change that you've taken, and there's a million tiles under which you thought there were support because you basically had a grand scheme idea. And it's so funny that you just have to, it's trial by fire. No matter how much time and effort and planning you put into something, it's sink or swim when the rubber meets the road and all the other hilarious euphemisms and all other garbage.
Right.
But it's a great experience if you can kickflip it into something that isn't a pain in the ass, because it can easily feel like a pain in the ass, right?
Yeah, but you have to remember, at least in my case, right? Like I made this choice,
right?
And I can never lose sight of that again.
Right.
And a lot of the reasons that we talked about in our previous edition with the two of us, or the three of us got together, and we just kind of talked about the attachment and the operating system and all the fear-based thinking that used to go into it. And now, I'm 6 months out of my retreat, and I feel the exact same as the day I left. And so that's telling of me that we have indeed created a new operating system here, and
right,
we got a different dude driving the bus.
Yeah, that's another thing I wanted to touch upon, to see what else has shaken loose, because even in the short time from our first contact to now, like with whatever technique you have been using and I have been using, I'm sure something is shaken loose from that tree and hit you. You can feel those thuds.
You know what it's been for me? I don't know if you guys have ever felt this, but I have had this overwhelming feeling of needing that I almost need to move some more space. I've thought about that over the last couple of weeks, and truthfully, the reason is because I'll be in my car, and whether it's happy or sad, I'll have this moment that almost brings me to tears, makes me emotional. And I'm aware enough to now say, okay, maybe you need to move some more space. And so I've been thinking about doing another one of those sound baths and going up there and crying for another 2 hours and seeing what happens.
Yeah, it's such a bizarre, because I'm sort of, we're meeting head to head on this one too, because you will still have these waves of emotion that you aren't consciously trying to cultivate. Now that you're sort of conscious of them and aware, and your plane of consciousness is a little higher, and you go, you are still, no matter how aware and no matter how in control you are, when your emotions sort of do as they do, and you go around picking for the answers, you're just sort of exacerbating the problem.
Yeah, that's the truth. Get back to knowing because you do, man. Get back to knowing because you do. I just, I talked to a good friend of mine before we did this podcast, and it's one of those guys that we all have in our lives, or women, you have more of these in your lives, but these people that you really, you lay it all out there for, and you really do speak your truth at every turn. And that was a lot of what we were talking about. It's just the being very excited about this new chapter and really leaning into it, because as I've had the opportunity to walk away from the radio and get into the speaking sector, boy, I love radio, Dave and Christina, right? Like, I love that. It's fun to be behind a microphone and produce a show and have people call in and play games, and I love all that stuff.
You're preaching to the choir, man. Right? Like, I've been doing this recreationally for over a decade.
But there is nothing better than being in a room with 80 people and every single pair of eyes is completely connecting with what you're saying. And that may have happened to me a million times before, but I never saw it because of the medium. Like you said up front, we people can't see each other. I never saw the audience reaction. And now that I'm in front of them and I'm really seeing how the way I talk, the way my mannerisms, all these little things are affecting them, it is like a whole new shot in the arm for me. It feels like Radio 2.0.
Elaborate on that a little bit. Like how, blow that out a little bit for me.
Because
What do you mean?
so, when you're doing the radio show, you're just scratching the surface, right? Your talk breaks are what, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 minutes if
Right.
you're right.
Okay.
But when I get in front of a group, not only do I have a prepared 45-minute keynote that walks people through a variety of interesting things, but I'm there with a purpose, and I really get to drill in on that purpose.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So the difference between reading the quote on Instagram and listening to the speech where the quote came from.
Right. Okay. So yeah, that's what I wanted to make sure. Okay. So it does feel like, because I feel like you and I are aligned on a lot of stuff like this. Because radio, and you know this, radio is a warm medium. It is more interactive than television. It's more interactive than any of the old school stuff that sprung up around it. And so personally, I feel if you're going to get into radio, it's more of an interest in people than it is in, the content that you're creating. It's more of that connection. It's not art for the sake of itself necessarily. It's more of that connection building. So I can only imagine the electricity and the magnetism of, let's say your listening audience, you get 10% interaction with, like for every...
At best, right?
Yeah, right.
The old numbers used to say for every one call, it was 1,000 people listening,
Right. Yeah, so the numbers are way out of, proportion. And so you say, well, for everybody who says, great, this is awesome, there's 1,000 who are silent. So once you get any number of people in a room and they're all there for a single purpose, it's undeniable. Like that connection is made, boom. That's radio turned up to 11.
It's the truth, man. It's how it feels. It's pretty sensational. I'll tell you, I've given the same speech in front of 80 people, 60 people, and 12 people, and the reaction is the same from everybody. Afterwards, it is that immediate sort of, whoa, okay, I needed to hear that. Thank you. Wow. I need to adjust my entire thinking here.
Yeah.
Isn't it? And it's amazing.
It's so hard to replicate too, because you can, especially, topical, especially in the days of the coronavirus and everybody's in and out of lockdown and trying to stay home and so everybody's going to these online resources to get these life lessons, which is good. It's not a bad thing to do to take in content virtually like that on a 2D, flat thing. But for some things you need that, it's why movie theaters never die. People want to come together for reasons. And, there's something magnetic about it. So I get where you're coming from with that. If there's 1 million people on the other end of an invisible radio that you can't see, but you know of a number, 10,000, 100,000, however many listeners, right? You go, oh, that's a big number. But seeing eyes and faces and knowing people exist, individuals, not just a sea, not a round figure.
I can see them wiping
wild.
their tears, right? I can see them wiping their tears. That's the difference. I can see them smiling. I can see them shift in their chair or lean in when I'm starting to slow down when I talk. Things like that.
Yeah.
There's probably an energy in the room too, as opposed to having just you're talking into a microphone versus an energy of all the people coming in for the one sole reason they're there.
And it's rough because if you're really interested in that connection, the internet is a godsend and also a devil's curse because it'll let you talk to anybody who can get an internet signal and can share a same language, which is incredible. But a true deep connection through text or a call or a video, it always feels like there's something missing. And I'm not telling tales out of school. If you're a human being, you are aware of this phenomenon.
Sure.
So yeah, that's the thing is we're all sort of reaching out and finding our warmest venue. And you and I, we get these in front of our face and we go, la, 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 and hope to reach out to make a connection. And, you're going to, so I guess what I'm getting at here is with all of these things being made, you're gathering all of this information. Has anything, you say you feel the same basically as from when you checked out.
Yeah.
But I guess what I'm trying to ask is there anything that you've looked at and gone, oh, that's something different? I've had a few things, a few apples drop out of my tree where I go, oh, whoa. I never thought of looking at it that way, but you start poking around. Is there anything in your recent memory where something dropped and you go, oh, because I'm only bringing this up because I have a personal example.
Give it to me, man. Give me some context.
What I was really looking into is I have a Vietnamese son. Just kidding. He's our foreign exchange student. He's now in Texas. And, we talk about physics a lot. And so I'm always bugging him and picking at him about time travel. And we go back and forth about all that stuff. And so that got me going down this rabbit hole of time and the confusion of its measurement as we see it and how it actually interacts with the universe. And so it's just as simple as that, describing like, okay, we need time, yes, because 8 o'clock needs to have a location. And if you want to meet at IHOP, you need a time, 8 o'clock. So yeah, when we talk day to day in like logistics and we need to meet places like ants, looking for food or, go to business meetings or whatever, great, time exists. But what is it really?
I'll tell you that for me, time has, what do they call it? Oh God, so do you know who Johan Hari is? He does TED Talks and he's got a couple of books and he's got this new book coming out called Stolen Focus. And he talks about this whole thing right there that you and I are getting into, just about when you're in your element and you are in your flow, the time is supposed to disappear. And that's how right, like you're in it and things are going okay. But you're right, you also need time. It's like this necessary evil to get things done.
Like language, it's woefully inadequate, but we need it to get things done. We need buildings built and we need crops grown. So yeah, logistically, we need all these things.
I think for me, man, if there's been anything that's continued to unfold, it's just been the constant affirmation of how difficult I was on myself for so many years.
Isn't that weird to like every once in a while you get caught up in that spiral again, right? And you go, what?
Yeah,
you go, wait,
little
that's
bit.
over.
And then but to build on that thought, I think this is something that's interesting that just popped up over the last couple of days for me too. And just kind of building up on this thought was, okay, hold on. I just lost my train of thought because I was going to say something.
I'm so sorry.
It's fine. It's happened. I've had like 9 meetings today, and I've been in a million places, and it's probably my fault that my head is in a bad spot right now. I'm sure we'll come back to my thought. But I totally blanked on what it is.
Well,
right
yeah.
now.
So So for me and the time thing, like it's just this. Everybody is so obsessed with, but here's what I'm getting at.
I figured it out. It was
all
control. Right. Don't let me forget. Okay. I just want to talk about, that's what it was. And I was just going to say that it's that bit about how much I try to control my life and everything in and around it. That is the thing that's shown itself. Okay. Back to you. Serve, back to you. Go.
Control is a wild thing. And we'll get back to it right after this. So the thing I'm going to point out is when things, like the concept of Zen, when things work in conjunction together, they function seamlessly. For example, when your eye is functioning perfectly, you don't see it. If something you can see happens, you have glaucoma. You can see your eye. There is a problem. You are now aware of your eye, right? So when you are constantly fixated on time, you're not one with it. You're fighting it, either trying to push forward or trying to pull it back, or you're in this constant tug of war. When you're right now, you're as efficient as stream, and there's no tension.
Stress comes from fighting the moment.
Yeah, but since we have watches and we have meetings and we have work and we have schedules, we go And sure, yeah, when the time comes, then worry about it. But we spend right now, and every, whatever the chunk is of now that you're going to sacrifice to then, which will then be now, is all dictated by this little, maybe it's a Mickey Mouse watch and it's cute. It gives you a little bump every time you look at it. But it's still, the concept of time is not pushing anything forward. You're living in it. So the more you feel it, the more you're fighting it.
Yeah, that's
It's like
true.
a fish in water.
Yeah, those are good, powerful words right there. I forgot how deep you like to go. I love that.
But yeah, so back to your point about control, it is when you start becoming aware, they pop up like weeds, right? You go, am I in the middle of trying something? You go,
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think the deal is this, right? When you're in your 20s and you're grinding it out and you're getting into your first level love, right? Let's not assume that anybody does anything for 30 years anymore, but you're getting into that first level love, your first career, which, listen, for most people is going to be like you and me. Maybe it's going to last 25, 30 years or something like that, but it's easy. When you get into that space, you are very much in flow. You think about where you are in your stage of the game in your early 20s and, maybe even in your early 30s for some people who got started a little bit later, but you're really ebbing and flowing at that time. I mean, you're meeting with people, you're networking, you're building, you're really working towards something. There feels like a level of achievement. And then what happens is you get into that space, you get the job, and you keep doing the thing for 5, 6, 10, 12 years, and eventually it just becomes what you do. And then I always tell people the difference between amateurs and professionals is that professionals can do it every day. Amateurs can't. Professionals can do it every day. And those who cannot simply cannot. But when you're in that space and you're trying to well, hold on, let me back up. So then you get into that mode where you're just grinding it out and you're going about your day, and then of course you have family, and then you get the life expands and you have things and you have all these places that you have to go, and then you start to feel a little out of control because the flow isn't there anymore. And so this is what you were just saying. So we try to hold on a little tighter. We try to make some more rules. We try to get more parameters. We sign our kids up for more shit. Right? We do so many things to make it feel like it's all together when what we need to do is let it go.
Yeah, it's the wildest thing.
It is the wildest thing, man.
With my kids. So my kid, being 3 years old, has a reckless abandon toward a lot of things. And so, you have to walk that line with them of like letting them do all the goofy shit that like could get them a little hurt, but not seriously injured. So they learn the lesson, and not being like the parent is always like, ha, ha, ha. So they never learn a thing. And so the first time is the worst time, and it is the biggest.
Yeah. Yeah. I've got two, and you're always a little bit easier on that second one. Our first was a total bruiser. Nothing seemed to hurt him. And so he almost trained us to not react. And because of that, we don't. But I would agree with you. There's a fine balance there. As I'm coming to understand, the older I get and the older my kids get, the word is guidance. That is the word that as parents, I think we should fundamentally zero in on. Not to parent on our children, not to parent with them, but to simply be their guide through this thing. And, your guide is your friend sometimes, and sometimes you don't like your guide. But your guide is constant, and he has something he needs to show you, and that's okay, right? That's a good place to be for a child, to have that kind of stability around him. Yeah,
I think, not that I don't think about this a lot, but it reminds me of the Tao Te Ching. So I'm going to paraphrase the quote, but he says that 30 spokes converge upon a hub, but it's the center that the wheel works. And if the wheel were grabbing the hub, and the axle and the wheel were so tight that it wouldn't move, neither would work. So that's what your kid is. Your kid is like a slippery little weirdo. And your job is to basically let them wriggle around, but keep enough of a hold on them so they don't go completely batshit insane and fly off a cliff or whatever kids want to do at the time.
Yeah. Yep. It's a hard job, man. As I've done it twice over. You're doing it now. Oh man, there's a lot of discovery that comes into your life as a parent of a 3-year-old. Yeah,
it's a wild experience because. I knowing I have zero control and I can just basically nudge this bowling ball down the river. We're starting to pick our own battles. Like he knows when I'm serious and I know when he's serious, and we have this give and take relationship. So it's sort of a parasymbiotic thing. I wouldn't say either of us is necessarily always in control.
Fair enough. But
you sort of have to do that because that's the thing. Kids are humans, and if you've always got the upper hand on them, they're going to like carry that through life.
Yeah.
Like you have to let them get the upper hand on you sometimes. Like we're human.
It like you said, you need to guide them through, and that involves some lessons. And the only advice that I can give parents who have young kids is you will have relationship stages with your kids, and the first few years are going to look very different from the time they're 5 to 10. And then it's going to look really different between the ages of 10 and 15. And I'm sure it's going to look very different between 15 and 20. But, and to mentally prepare for those things to shift, because it's easy for us to be there with our 3-year-old and think that that's going to be the relationship that we have with that kid forever. And I only say that as the dad of 2 boys who doesn't have that anymore, right? It's a very different relationship. Now it's like before when they were little, it's like, hey buddy, you want to go play? And they're your total buddy. They're like, yeah, let's go. We're down. What are we doing? And now I'm probably like 1 for 15 if I walk into my kid's room and I'm like, hey guys, you want to go do something? I mean, most of the time I was like, no, Dad, no.
Well, yeah, when I was a teenager, I didn't want anything to do with my parents.
There you go. And I think I'm a cool dad. I'm pissed.
Yeah, I'm sure that's the cycle that happens every time. It's they're on some stone tablet on a mountain somewhere. There's a commandment that says like everybody agrees to this, but nobody talks about this. Like when you have a kid, you forget what it's like being a kid, so you can no longer relate to them, and you like do all the stupid shit you hated from your parents, and thinking you can do it like the right way. Like,
say it louder, buddy. This is why I'm on the road right now, man. This is what wild. I do for a living, is what you're talking about right now, is parents finally coming to that realization that all they're trying to do is a better version of what their mom and dad did. And that's not the thing, because a lot of us were in situations where parents weren't making the greatest choices all the time. And there are things that need to be broken and stopped and not repeated. And that is the task of our generation, is to fundamentally flip the switch with kids and take this from a thing where when you and I were kids, and Christina, you know this too, when we were kids.
Krista,
oh my God, Krista, that's what I meant.
A lot of people do that though.
Krista, when we were kids, it was like if you started to get upset, it was like stop crying, and because if you cry, I have to pay attention to you, right? And I think we're moving into a little bit of a softer place where we're starting to understand where kids are coming from. We're truly buying into the fact that 0 to 3 is the most and most important piece of their development. And then, of course, the 7 years that happens after that. And then, we're understanding more. We're starting to listen to people smarter than us, right? This whole podcast that I have, learn from people who lived it. Like we're finally starting to wake up and go, oh, maybe he knew what he was talking about.
It's so weird because we pave our own road to hell with our good intentions. Because if you ask these parents, like if you ask anybody's parents, like anybody turns the finger backward, they point up to their parents, they say, why'd you do this? They say, well, I had the best intentions. I wanted the best. And that's the thing. When you are constantly trying to fixate on getting the best out of everything and making sure that everything is always perfect, you're setting yourself up for disappointment after disappointment after disappointment, because you cannot dictate the future.
Yeah, there's a guy that's big on TED Talks right now, and that's his whole thing. Be mediocre. Stop this whole thing. He calls it an amazing culture, and you guys know what I'm talking about. Like even my own wife does it. Like every damn thing in the world is amazing. Oh my God, it's amazing. It's amazing. It's amazing. Like stop it. Yeah, everything can't be amazing. It can't. It just can't. By just simple math, it can't be.
Well, that's
right.
Yeah, exactly. And that's part of our problem too, is like what we have are a lot of really nice creature comforts. Totally. And so every time something new but temporary blows through our life, we go, whoa, it's way better. And so we celebrate these incremental, minuscule, like implementations of technology in tiny little places, and we go, yay, our life is that much more comfortable. But what is physical comfort if interior is like askew. Like, I don't care how much you spend on a chair and how long it massages your ass and whispers sweet nothings into your ear. Whatever floats your boat. As soon as the shine is off that, new trinket, you're back where you were, not focusing on what you should be focusing on.
Yeah, sure.
But chasing the next, the iPhone versus the Android. And we all do. We all have our little tribes, Ford and Chevy, and then, your iPhone and Android, like I mentioned. And there's a million ways to split up your life. But if you sit there in the middle, right, you don't get to choose this. You don't have to choose a side. And you get to watch both sides throw mud and shit at each other. And you stay clean as a whistle.
Yeah, neutral, man, neutral. It's one of my favorite things that athletes are huge on this concept right now. Russell Wilson wrote a book with his life coach or his mental coach. I don't know what the guy calls himself. And that's the whole thing with him is neutral thinking. He says, fuck this positive stuff. What I'm about is neutral thinking, meaning when things go wrong, there's no reaction from me. When things go right, there's no reaction from me. It's neutral. I have myself, and I love this concept because it kind of builds on something Michael Singer talks about, which is what can you be all the time? That's what we all have to start looking into.
Yeah.
What can you be all the time?
Boy, oh boy.
You can't be happy, giddy, I serve everybody's needs. That's impossible, right?
You are preaching to the choir, brother.
Totally selfish either. You got to find that place in the middle that you can be all the time. And I really, you're on the money, man. To seek neutrality, to seek a neutral space is a fantastic practice for people to just start to think about. That in itself could be a nirvana for somebody.
It could, because it's the middle way. It's Buddhism. Like when we look at it, you say, well, all of these like this wave of new age love and hope and stuff that is now crashing upon the shores and bringing with it a lot of this fake positivity. Like, I don't want to rain on people's parade and shit on their picnic and everything, but like, you cannot be force fed a stream of Facebook and or Instagram and or tweets that are all positive motivation to keep you up because everything else is such a downer. Like, that sucks. I don't like that message. It sucks, dudes. Because like, the quotes are nice if you take them to heart, but having to be like, it's heartbreaking to me to read like responses and stuff like that. We're like, I needed this today because blah, blah, blah. Like, if you're centered and you're not constantly thrown about, like, that's what I preach. I don't preach. I don't talk to anybody about this because I like to not look at other people like I'm crazy. But since, we talk about this stuff, I'll do it. But if you're in the middle and you're not constantly seeking a high, you're not constantly dreading the low, when they happen, you're just on the roller coaster. Imagine taking a ride on a roller coaster, and every time you went down, you were desperately pulling up. And every time you went up, you were pushing down as hard as you could on your ass in that seat.
Yeah.
What a miserable way to live.
You just define stress.
Yeah. Oh. So when you're in the middle and you're going with everything, that's it. I like that we meet there, but me personally, when you say neutral, it always puts me in the mind of like a beige or like
feels like very unexciting, feels very blah.
And it's not. It's incredibly enthralling because when you're in the middle and not constantly having your sails whipped about by being sad, happy, upset, thirsty, hungry, whatever, you're just in here watching it all happen. You get to react to what you want. You're not, the punching bag. You're punching the bag.
Yeah, right. Just the punching stops. I mean, that's
well, yeah, I mean, the interaction just sort of switches polarity, and instead of being like, oh, this is miserable. Like, punching a bag can be fun. It's exercise. You're getting blood into your muscles. Like, so it's the same experience, except it goes from ow, ow to like, yeah, right?
Yeah.
It's not that hard.
You enjoy the process when you can get into that stream of consciousness where you're in flow and you take the good with the good and you take the bad with the bad. You really can. You can find yourself. I tell people all the time, I say, you can truly find peace again. You truly can feel that again in your stomach and take a deep breath and feel like yourself. That is a real possibility. And not only do you deserve it, it should be the thing you try to achieve more than anything else in your life. Get to that point.
And it's all a catch-22 because there are people who you can say, do this. And they go, you got it. Bam. And there's some people who aren't happy until they say, do this. And here's the manual. Clung. And it looks like all the Harry Potters in one book, right?
Yeah. Well, there is no manual, right? I mean, it's a personal journey for everybody.
That's what I'm saying. Like, we make our own. The book is the metaphor. Like, your journey is a single step or it's 3,000 miles all on foot.
There you go.
You can either fly across on a jet or you can cut your arms and legs off and pull yourself by your chin.
You have no idea what's coming.
The hardest thing for me personally is I like wanting that manual. Like,
Yeah.
I know
you want to
that
know what's next, right? But that's that control piece. Talk about that more, Krista, right? Because so many people feel that, right? Talk about that more because so many people feel that.
Well, it's just I want intellectually. I know there's no manual, and it is my own way to get to wherever it is that I'm going to go or whatever. But it's intellectually. When David says things to me, or I learn things from different, like Eckhart Tolle and stuff like that, I understand everything they're saying,
but you don't believe it.
So, and I have that disconnect because I don't know how to just have my head and my heart meet in the center.
Yeah. But you're looking for a feeling.
Could be, yeah, a little bit of a chase, right? Maybe seeking for something that's already right there. That's a definite possibility because I think all of us have that thing inside of us. It's just about unlocking it. I can only speak for myself, and I know that when I was really going through some of the darkest times, and more, maybe darkest is the word for it, but some of the most discovery moments in my life, it was that bit about feeling like I'm in a room and there's like 22 doors on each wall, and I don't know, I have like the key to one of them, and I can't figure out which door I'm supposed to open. And you'd sit there and like kind of like you just said, right? You're an intelligent person. You have good thoughts. You know some things. You've done some self-discovery. You've fucking meditated, for crying out loud. Like you feel like you're somebody who should get this thing together, and it can almost drive you crazier to sit there and feel like you don't. And so it does seem a little bit like, I don't know if it's a chase, but you're right. There's a little bit of a struggle going on in there between those two things, and figuring out where the flow piece is and what the blockage is will be like I just said a few minutes ago. I mean, that should be the thing you're consumed with, right? That should be your life's purpose, is to unlock that block.
Yeah. But that's the thing. There is not for everybody, because obviously there are people who just go boop. But
you got to be ready too. That's the other thing. Got to be ready.
That's what this all hinges on, is like, it'll happen when you're ready, and it'll happen. The ready that you feel won't happen until you feel like you put yourself through the ringer enough times. Because it's a decision, right? It's not like don't think of it as magic. It's not going to be like bing, like if your fairy godmother doesn't hit you on the head and suddenly blah. Like it can be as subtle as a decision, or it can be as profound as what Mathew went through.
Yeah. So
don't set your sights on anything, because you're aiming into a void. It's like when in the Futurama episode where those boxes, they had to pull one through the other.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the thing. If you knew what was in the manual, you wouldn't need it, so it doesn't exist.
That's true.
Well, and it's your manual, right? Like
right.
It's literally, to take it a step further, it's literally your manuscript, right? You are literally writing this thing.
Exactly.
And so the only words that matter on the pages are the ones that you write. Imagine the story with just commentary. It would be awful. And that is the truth that a lot of people live in every single day. They let I just put this on my IG the other day. I was like, this is the goal here. Stop making so many choices, listening to other people's voices. Mm-hmm. And that is a world that too many of us, including myself, lived in for a very long time. And when you free that up when you actually go, oh, you know what? I don't have to do that anymore. Boy, there's a little bit of there's some space created in all the best ways. But I also think as somebody, Krista, who was a chaser myself and always looking for the answer and looking for a feeling, it was always right there inside me. And it was just about admitting it.
Yeah, that's why I'm speaking from experience, because I chased it for a long time.
Yeah.
I came back and back and back and back, and I looked because something was resonating, but I was not letting it ring. Like if you have a tuning fork, will not ring if you're holding the tines.
Right.
I mean, guess what? The tines and you are the same thing. So you go, well, one day I'll let it ring, because who else is in control, right? But that's just a metaphor. I can't tell you to do this. Whoop.
Yeah.
So how do you that's your journey. At the end of every page before you go to sleep goes, didn't happen today either. You've guaranteed yet another page for tomorrow.
Well, I admire you. Keep on looking. Keep on going with your journey. I mean, the journeymen are the people that we look to the most, because you're on a road right now, and who knows? Maybe one day it'll all make sense. Maybe one day it'll never make sense. But just
the key is not to sweat it.
Yeah. If the key is really just to be on your ride, you bet to be on your ride.
Because the longer you think about it like this: when you're driving your car, right? Are you focusing on the first foot of road in the front of the bumper, making sure that's all clear, or are you casting your gaze down?
Down.
Right. So if you're, looking constantly on this shifting plane for a thing that's, whatever, and the turn comes, you're not going to know what's happening, and it's going to wreck you every time because your focus is somewhere else.
So practical application, right? I always think of driving.
Right.
I had a Buddhist teacher who used to tell me all the time, if you want to learn everything about yourself, go get in traffic. Go get in traffic.
Yeah.
And start to consume. And because what happens in traffic is everybody else's stuff becomes your stuff. All their anger, all their anxiety, all their slowness, their cold, their whatever their thing is, all of it comes out and it shares the road with you. And I always loved that analogy of figuring out, how are you going to act when that all goes down? But that's your life, is literally the people are coming at you and bringing you these things. And it's just about, for me, it was like not letting these things be big events and not allowing them anymore to set off the triggers that I now understood were setting that stuff up. But good for you. Keep journeying. Go, 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 go. Keep walking. It's the best.
That's an interesting concept that you bring up about the Buddhist teaching, because that's what, all these, the Rinpoches and all these guys do, is like, if you're a Buddhist teacher, they go, I got nothing to teach you. And they put you through the ringer. Mm-hmm. They have to push you as far as you can go to see that nothing matters. You need to be pushed off the edge. The baby eagle will not jump by itself. The mom goes, goodbye. So that's that you have to pursue. But that's the thing. If you jump down a foot of each path, you're just going to be confused.
Yeah.
You just have to.
And it's just hard too, right? I mean, we can all own up to this. When you've got small kids, I don't care what anybody says, man. This is the hardest time of your life. Everything is shifting. Your identity, who you are, what you're about, what you're going to be, how you're going to raise this child. All of the things are coming to you, and there's so much information out there about how to do it right and how to do it wrong, and everybody's opinion is so strong about all of those things. And so I know that today's parent, we have it very differently than our generation did. There was the technology wasn't there to begin with, right? And so the direct result of that was we talked to our parents in conversations. And now we're kind of evolved into a world of status updates where we sit to each other and we have our 2-minute monologue, and then we pause, and then somebody else talks for 2 minutes, and then we pause, and then and you'll notice that now in conversations when you get in with people who you don't have any sort of dialogue with. Like I always say, there should be interruptions in conversations. That means you're having the conversation.
Right.
It means that you're talking to each other. Somebody should say, hold on a second, stop. I have something to say now. But you notice that. You guys will find that in your lives now with certain people who just want to present you their status updates. It's freaking wild.
Yeah, it's such a hard. I mean, you got to sacrifice I personally have sacrificed a lot of what I would have considered me for my kid. But that also was just attaching to labels that don't exist. Like, I was so angry about giving up these monikers. Like, another thing that sort of melted for me are these things where I go, oh no, I can't be a blank anymore. I can't do this. Well, I think, well, you're not locked out of the clubhouse forever, number one. And number two, like, if you're so connected to something that it's mere, like, removal temporarily rocks you to your core, like, where are you in there? In that meat puppet that is you, where are you? I just felt like that's like a personal revelation I had, was like feeling stupid about these longings to go back to like dumb old hobbies that I was doing. And not only longing to do them, but beating myself up over not letting myself or making myself do them.
Right, because you can't do them because now you're a dad, right?
Yeah, like, and not only that,
which is such a joke.
No, like the legitimate reason is it's not because I'm my dad. Here's why you do literally 100% of the things you do.
Go.
You fucking want to.
Yeah.
I have a wonderful set of lenses and cameras. I long sometimes to take photos because I remember the good old days, but I don't because I honestly don't fucking want to right now.
Right.
And I spent a lot of time beating myself up over that, looking at my cameras, looking at my bag, scratching my head, wondering if I should pull my lights out. It was a torture chamber of a thing I used to love. So now I just don't beat myself up over it. I go, yeah, the camera's there. If one day I pick it up, great. I've got time. I'm not dead yet. Now is forever, essentially. So whatever.
There you go, man. I like it.
And even like something stupid as 3D printing. I ever look at the 3D printer in my garage and go, one day, and then I go, well, who am I kidding?
Right.
Live in the now, right?
I'll put that on offer up tomorrow.
Somebody's got to make some junk out of it. I've already made, the studio's full of it.
I have, speaking of interesting things that have happened since retreat, but that's one of the things that I have done a little bit of is cleaning out. There was plenty of stuff that I held on to. And it was like, and I mean, little stuff, right? Just little mementos or electronic cords or, old gaming system or something, something stupid. And I was like, hey, own up here, partner. You don't need that anymore. You're good without it. You're good without it. And there's a freeing feeling that happens with getting rid of it.
Yeah, you can swing that cleaver two ways, though. You can slice and be like, hey, I don't need anything anymore, or do like I did and lean into it, realize everything's temporary and that fun things are fun to look at, and not like, because like, let's say all this goofy crap behind me, right? You can say, well, it's so vain, he's collective stuff. Like, if I get tired of something, it comes off and I throw it away. Like, it's not like I'm saving a childhood. It's not like Star Wars ruined my childhood or whatever. Like all those, everybody who's clinging desperately to the past. Like, it's just a bunch of fun stuff that, like, if I do a live, whatever. So I feel like with zero hypocrisy, collect a bunch of garbage like I have, but feel zero connection to it physically because it's just garbage for the camera.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right. Sure. Well, it's fun garbage. I like your backdrop.
And it's freeing because I realize that this is fun to collect and like, but one day if I want to go, I don't want it anymore. Boom, it's gone. I give myself that option and it's completely freeing because I'm responsible for my life 100%. I want to get rid of this crap, I will, but I like it, so I'm not.
There it is. It's a good, healthy attitude, man. It's a good, healthy attitude.
Yeah, because all you can do is live right now. You say, well, what if you get sick of it one day? Well, I'm not there.
I'm not there right now. I'm okay with it, so we're good. I'm getting kind of excited. I know I've badmouthed it a little bit, but like all this new coming positivity and new age stuff, it's even seeping into like the little weird cracks in our culture out here. We went to the Arboretum a couple of times this weekend, and they're even
like pushing Zen t-shirts, like be here now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm digging it. So like, any way in, great, but don't get fooled by the fake Instagram positivity is my thesis.
Right. Understand who's trying to reel you in and who's really got something to say.
Yeah, who's delivering you power and who's being like, give me a goddamn like on this thing.
Well, it's funny, right? Because like even getting into this world that I'm getting into now, this motivational speaking space where I'm going into schools and getting in front of parents and stuff. It's like, I know I tell everybody, I'm not unique. There's 1,000 people that have come before me that have said very similar things to the thing that I'm saying. But there is just something about testimony and connection, and certain people speak truths, and certain people resonate with certain people who speak those truths. And if I can walk into a room and I know that I can resonate with people, well, then there you go, because I know that there's plenty of other people, because I've seen it along the way, who can walk into a room and not move the needle, not even for a second.
Right.
And so I get really excited about all these new adventures, man, because they really just all involve more connection.
You're touching upon a concept I've been grappling with recently. I'm going to throw out some terms, but so like, let's say once you have an experience like this, an awakening, yada, 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 you can, there again, like with everything, like the non-duality of duality, one of two ways you can go. You can sort of go off on your own thing and not really make a big deal of it and become what they refer to as a Pratyeka Buddha, a private Buddha, someone who has attained wholeness, attained enlightenment, escaped samsara, and attained nirvana, yada, yada, yada. And they go, shh, right? Because they're not wanting to put up with the hassle of everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm bouncing between that and what is known as a bodhisattva, someone who pops and is like, hey, good news. I figured it out, and here are a bunch of inadequate ways through language, which I'm going to try and express it to you.
Yeah.
So it's a ping-ponging between the two, because on one you go, well, what can I do as a single I of the universal, and wanting to share an experience with somebody that I think will be beneficial, not for my sake, but for theirs.
Yeah.
But then what turns into false virtue? Am I doing it to get the rush of converting somebody or making them click in?
Well, I think people doing it. So I think because a lot of the people that we've listened to, like Alan Watts, he's gone. Like you can't go see one of his talks because all you can see is him on YouTube. I think it's good that there are people like you, Matthew, and David, and all like that are alive now that can go talk to people and basically reiterate what the people before us said, but also take a certain spin on how life is now.
It's the oldest form of communication, right? Since the beginning of time, this is what storytelling has been the key. But the problem is, a lot of people think they're good storytellers.
Yeah,
right.
It's what it's going to come down to is personal flavor. If you're one who likes to gab, because here's the thing, I walk that line of duality too, where I say, by and large, I don't like talking about this stuff with people because they glaze over, and the ones who do sort of take notice go, well, this is weird. What do you mean you don't believe in time? Are you an idiot? Like, what do you mean money is made up? It's just a concept and blah, blah, blah. Not that it's not real, not that we don't use it day to day, but we all agree that it's a thing. It doesn't change it, obviously, but just like perspective changing things like that can make you sound like a crackpot unless you are reading behind the metaphor.
Don't you guys feel like the world has turned into this really sort of, it's a tough space because you are sort of the sum of all your parts now. It's like if you make a statement about, time doesn't exist, right? We can be in the middle of a spiritual conversation and I can understand the context of that and understand where you're coming from. Somebody who's not that connected hears those words and they say, this guy is a freaking quack. What is he talking about, right? And it's like you really, scarily, we've all become the sum of all of our parts, where you are everything all the time. And what an unhealthy way to live. We my God, I hope we're not the same all the time. Right. And I hope one thing isn't the thing that defines us and sets us into who we are and what we're supposed to be about. But I don't know. That's a thing I've been thinking about lately, is that, it's hard for people to branch out. It's scary for people to want to share. It's scary for people to want to take that leap because they're worried that that's going to become the thing they become known for or about. And and it's a little bit of a spooky space for them.
Yeah, it's something that it's like we're made to feel shame about something for which we have passion. That's what, it's sort of dying off now. But back in the old days, we called it being a nerd.
Write that down, man. I got to write that down. That was so good.
I'm just making stuff up. We're just talking.
Okay. But I'm gonna take that and flip it. The line that I'm gonna steal from this is like, I used to have shame for this thing that I now have a passion for. Like, I'm just gonna flip it. That's all. It's incredible. Yeah. Thank you.
No, but that makes sense, right? Because like back, like let's say in the old days, if you got literally into anything that wasn't like sports or things that a guy or a girl in whatever role you were supposed to be approved for, you were a nerd. So your passion was a filthy thing that made you an other. It made you something different. And so now that that's sort of sloughing off, and obviously in layers it is coming and going, but instead of being a nerd and being written off by society at large, you now get to be an expert. You have expertise in something. You have passion for something. If you're talking to the right people, obviously.
Right.
And it's just a matter of ideas. How we think about certain things. How we think dictates how we see reality. If you were born 1940 something, coming up in the 50s, you see a kid with glasses who's reading a book, you go, oh, what a nerd. Now you see that person in this day and age, in this culture, slowly coming to grips with our consciousness because, we lag. That's the thing. Evolution pumped a huge brain up into our head. And now we're like, oh shit, we all have our own separate thoughts. And we're now sort of defining ourselves as other. We're separating ourselves from the stream of consciousness because we're so smart and we're so other, human and animal. It's the same. Yeah. Stop chopping the reality up. It's how you look at it. But if you look at it like this is this and that's part of this, it's all part of the tapestry. You say, well, why did you do that? You'd never be able to explain it. There was a million, possibly an infinite number of things closing in on the nexus that is now, and it always is. And you're right there, flying through it. But you can think you're in the past or you can think you're in the future. That sucks. Don't over-positive. Don't time travel.
Right? There he is. Back to time travel. Is that what you should probably call this podcast episode the time travel episode.
Yeah, this will be our time capsule.
There you go. I like it.
Because you can worry about time or you can think about where, your imagination is so fruitful.
Yeah.
And to use it to kill yourself is so antithetical.
You know what? It's we make it harder on ourselves than we need to, and that is just the truth.
Yeah.
I remember when my kids were little and we go out and we play golf, and they'd grab the wrong club and they wouldn't listen to me. I'd say, "Well, the game is hard enough. Don't make it harder for yourself, right?
Right.
Get the right tool and go through the game the right way." And in a lot of respects, sport can kind of mirror life, but in that respect, it really does. It's like a lot of us, we grab the wrong tool at the wrong time, and we could just be better about thinking for just a small second, grab the right tool, and then calm down, take the time we need to separate ourselves from the moment or the attachment of the thing. I think our lives would be more enjoyable for ourselves and everybody around us.
Yeah. It's when things aren't serious, they flow like crazy. Like if you take all of your obligations, like all your bills and all the laws and everything that is pressing down on you as a rule, and it's stifling you. Like, what is a game without rules? Like, what if poof, now you can do whatever you want. Murder is legal, like the Purge. Like, that'd be stupid. Like, life is a game. You were put here to enjoy it, but we all decided that things should happen so we're not running each other off the road and doing all these things that we know we shouldn't be doing, but some of us give way to our baser instincts. So that's what the thing is. The law is the last bastion of man. if you want to follow this train of logic, and it might sound crackpot because it's going to start with the Tao, because it says you have the Tao, everything is fine. If you lose the Tao, you have morals and ethics. If you lose morals and ethics, you have the rules of kindness. And if you lose the rule of kindness, you have the rule of law. And if you cannot even follow your own heart to be a nice person unless a law, the rest of us say you are so deplorable, you have to meet at least this criteria. You've fallen far down the ladder, my friend, but you can come back up like that.
Like that. That's
because it's in your head.
Yeah, because it is. It's like I tell everybody, you're the elephant tied to the plastic chair. At any moment in your life, you can absolutely get up and walk away from where you are. And that is mental, that's a physical, that's a soulful metaphor. Use them any way you want.
Yeah, you just have to accept. And that's like there's a lot of moving parts, like the 4 big chunks.
Right.
You got to accept responsibility for now. You got to be okay with death. You got to be, okay with the game. And you got to realize that you are not here either for no reason or for nothing. Both of those could be true, whatever. But you're here. So why spend it working toward something you'll enjoy later? Retirement is everybody's touchstone. Retirement, travel the world.
What does that mean anymore?
Right? What is that?
The golden years has come up a lot in our Discord chats recently.
Well, it's breaking a lot of now that people are moving, like you were talking about earlier, Matthew, with like careers. What are those? Like people are jumping from job to job to job to job because their skills evolve, their expertise changes, their passion changes. So here we are. And when it was like you're born, your dad's a farmer, you're a farmer. Sure, great. But now everybody gets to blossom.
Yeah.
But given that, a lot of people are misread or miscast or follow what they think they should be doing when they know in their heart what should be.
Oh, so yeah, there's still the people that, like, my dad wanted me to, finish college, and that he still, if he had the chance, he would still looming over my head if we spoke.
And you're thinking about it. You're like, if we ever see him again, because this story comes up a lot. I'm only telling you this to raise your consciousness to it, because you say, this is always a touchstone for you. You say, I never finished college with my dad.
Yeah.
Yeah. But where is he? And where's college? Who are you? Who am I?
But I have a good job, and I enjoy my job.
Right.
So here we are.
I don't need that. I don't need that anymore. I'm good. I'm good.
I've always liked research, and that's where
so use your imagination for good, not evil. It's Superman.
But you're not alone, right? I mean, that's what's so important to note is
the
woman, this new podcast that I created, learned from people who lived it. The first woman that was on it. She had a story kind of similar to what you were just talking about. She talked about how her first divorce, she couldn't leave her husband because her dad was alive, and her dad didn't believe in divorce, right?
Right.
So many people live their lives based on other people's choices and thoughts and the whole thing. And so it's interesting to me to hear you say, I didn't finish college. My dad has this thing, and it makes me wonder, do you want to finish college? Is that a dream that you have for yourself? And is that something you would like to explore, or not? And then if not, then convict with this new decision that you've made, and that you are exactly where you're supposed to be.
Yeah, I don't feel the need to finish college because I got where I got with experience and work and.
Yeah, that's the weird thing too, because we, and probably you too, grew up in a generation where it was like, don't go to college, you're going to be a homeless person. And here I am living high on the hog for all intents and purposes. I'm the wealthiest man I know. And I was so stupid, I couldn't even get out of community college with a degree. Yeah. And, I just, when that happened, I cashed the check of just like living from garbage can to garbage can, pushing my shopping cart. But, here I am. I got like a huge studio, a bunch of, sparkly shit around me. And look, it worked out fine.
Yeah.
But
More than fine. More than fine.
But I could beat myself up over like, oh, well, there's a little space right there that could have a piece of paper with some calligraphy and maybe some olive branches on it.
Well, why don't you get to it, damn it? Because I agree. Could be right there to the right of that portrait.
I can print one out for you.
The thing I am a pastor from the Universal Life Church, but my certificate is lost. So probably going to hit me up for $15.
I have
again.
mine, bro. Don't get me wrong. I've got mine.
I lost it in one of the moves. We moved twice since I got it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm probably going to have to re-up.
I have mine. I've been thinking about using it.
My buddy has his too, and he's the one who married us.
He married us.
Oh yeah, I've done 5 weddings so far, and they've all been just really awesome. They've all been people I'm pretty close to, and that's been a really neat thing.
Yeah, that's another reason I want to get another certificate, because I can hang it up, and anybody who comes in, I can casually mention, like, I could be an officiant, just FYI.
Or reverend.
Yeah, or a reverend. Plant the seed. I want to be up in front of somebody, and I'll wear a collar. I'll do whatever you want.
Listen.
I'm a sucker for attention.
I'm in a space now where, and maybe it's not even about attention, but maybe you just feel like you got something to share that you think might help people, and that's allowed. That's allowed.
I think I'm in that space right now where, like, I am so interested in playing with everybody, not necessarily like, because when you start thinking things as light and airy and things as a game instead of a drudgery, like every day is no longer a crushing boulder. Everyone you meet, you get to interact with them however you want.
Totally.
They're their own NPC. Mm-hmm. So instead of being afraid and being like, what if they?
Well, that's what, to go back on Matthew's podcast with the first woman, she, went through some terrible things, and she would walk through the grocery store and just cry. And at first she was kind of ashamed of doing that. And then she's like, fuck that. I don't care what anybody else thinks. This is what's happening to me, and I'm going through this.
A slice of the pie is being authentic. You have to go with what you're feeling in the moment and not suppress.
Yeah.
It's hard to do, right?
Yeah.
It is, especially when you're in the grocery store and you feel like, and I tell people all the time, I say, humankind and human nature is to maybe want to help, and maybe not. Let's take out that maybe. Let's be more sure about that. Human nature is to want to be kind and to want to help. And then I know that I am, and I think I speak for both of the people on this podcast, if I know full well that if I were in a situation and I saw a woman crying, my natural inclination would be to want to walk up to her and ask if there's something I can do to be helpful.
Right. Or hand them a tissue, which was the other thing that you're not supposed to do.
That you're not supposed to do, right? Yeah, I got that from Frank myself.
It acts on a visceral level. Yeah. Like that is, whatever, we can call that the Tao. But that's the thing, it pulls you toward them. But society and the prying eyes of others keep you from interacting with someone who is maybe desperate. Maybe they got onion in their eye. You don't know. But as a human being, it's your... I don't want to say right, because I don't want to get all like I'm on a soapbox. But if you want to interact with someone to touch base and say, hey, everything okay over here? Do it.
It is okay. And I'll tell you, if there's an overwhelming theme that I'm noticing in this series that I'm recording, it's that people, we have become a world that almost doesn't know what to say. And so we've stopped saying anything.
Right.
And that in and of itself is the crushing blow, is that so many of us are choosing to just bite our tongue because of the lashing that we see from other people out there when somebody gets open and honest and real. But those are just things, and those are just events, and that's just noise. And I used to pay attention to that, but I don't hear that anymore.
Yeah, it's become a real like blood-drenched noir version of Keeping Up Appearances, if you're familiar with that show.
Oh yeah, man.
Like, holy shit. So for Chris of the Cliff Notes, Hyacinth Bucket, aka Bouquet, lives her life by everybody else's opinion of her. But it's a hilarious British comedy. But in reality, that is a dark, horrifying existence.
Yeah.
Because if you're having to tail yourself to literally everybody, and then God forbid if two people who you have two different slightly altered personas with get in the same room, like God forbid a party.
Oh yeah.
What happens to you if you're authentic all the time? That schism never has to happen. I remember growing up, I had a church group and a group of friends from school. And I had a big party and I got them both together, and it was like the parting of the Red Sea.
Right.
They would not, it was oil and water. And because I had two different like contexts for them. I don't think I was necessarily any different in between them, but like something was, because your school friends are secular and your church friends, like that's enough to even like drive a stake through the thing. But yeah, being a fully integrated person is another key element. And that includes crying in the grocery store and being okay with it.
Yeah, feeling the feels, man, feeling the feels. But there's also this thread, and I think this is the other thing that we're struggling with as a world right now, of this thing about, we say this all the time, which is like, don't care what anybody else thinks, or, don't worry about if you have to cry in the thing, don't worry about what other people think. And I think on a lot of levels that is absolutely good advice, to not worry about what other people think when you need to have an emotional moment that's for yourself. But I know that I in saying this, people are agreeing with you, because some of us have taken that too far, and some of us have taken that to a place where it's rude and it's disrespectful, and it is. Yeah,
you're preaching to the choir again.
Yeah, right. It's almost blatantly in your face, and in some situations, just disgusting, right? And so that part needs to be articulated. As much as it's okay to cry in the grocery store because you're crying over your son, and yes, that's 100% allowed, that doesn't mean at the same time that you get to be rude to people because you're not in the mood to be nice.
Right. That's the thing. We cannot paint life in shades of black and white like this, because something as simple as saying to someone, take the middle way, or to find neutrality, or to blah, 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 blah. There is so much subtlety in that, so much nuance that you have to adjust from person to person. How do you pass that along? Yeah. Like, you cannot say, follow your goddamn gut and use these as keystones. Because if you're seeing someone with your eyes and they're reacting poorly,
yeah, right.
Move with the wave and not against it. That's how surfers work. You go with the wave. Go with the person you are a part of a conversation.
Baby.
Yeah.
Flow, baby.
There's no other, it's all just metaphor, but water keeps working. Is if you go with it and are like it, everything just sort of happens. Water doesn't wait to roll down a hill. It doesn't if it comes up against a rock, it doesn't go, should I go left or right? It just goes. That's the mindset. But how do you translate that? I don't know. Ask the Buddha.
Let me get him on the phone. Is every podcast like this, where you guys jump down the spiritual rabbit hole, or is do I just draw that out of everybody I talk to these days? Full
disclosure, I basically have zero plan anytime somebody comes on the show, and we just unfold as it unfolds.
That's amazing. I love it. Good for you. I'm golf claps.
Yeah, because I was, full disclosure, having you back on, I started to pick up that old rut of I need topics. What do I do? What do I do? Blah, blah, blah. I go, whatever. Come on, we'll talk about whatever. I had a whole, in my head, I was going to impress you about how much I knew about the Bumble Numbs, and they never came up.
The what?
Oh, yeah.
His kids are too old for the Bumble Numbs.
My 3-year-old is into these cartoon characters called the Bumble Numbs, and all they do is cook. And it's like a snacky little 6-minute cartoon where the narrator tells them a secret ingredient, they run off, and they come back and make the food.
Yeah, they get into some shenanigans, get the stuff, come back, and then we find out
there's a deep well of lore to find out.
Yeah.
If you watch it enough as an adult, it's going to sink in. As much as you hate it, it's going to come in. So you start creating fan theories.
Yeah. Okay. So, all right, go.
So you get this revelation. I was watching it one day, and my kid staring into space watching this thing, and I come to find out I thought they were all just genderless blobs because they're all just ovals.
Okay.
Until the narrator is like, Lady Humble, like it matters. One of the characters is a lady, and I was like, what? I didn't know they had genders. I thought they were just pink blobs.
So then a couple days after that, I texted David, and I was like, oh my God. The little ant.
There's some context. Hold on.
Okay.
At the end of every episode, when they sit down, the narrator goes, how does it taste, Bumble Numbs? And they all think about it, and they go, yum. The camera zooms in, and there's this tiny little ant who's got a very tiny portion of it, and he eats it and smiles. There's the context.
So I texted David, and I was like, oh my God, I think the ant is the narrator of this show. And he was like, Well, that's quite a revelation. I figured that out days ago. And I'm like, but you didn't tell me this is pivotal information.
You were holding on to the nugget, man. You were holding on.
You didn't tell me Humble was a girl.
I didn't know you didn't know.
I didn't know you
She's
didn't know the
purple.
hint.
Isn't that amazing? Isn't
Yeah.
that amazing? Y'all should talk to each other more.
It's well, because like I only don't share what I learned because she is a stay-at-homer and must see these things a billion times. So anything
Well, I'm
I would come
working.
up and be like, hey, guess what? I was watching the Bumblenums and I just figured out that the narrator is the aunt. Of course, I'm not gonna have that conversation because number one, who cares? And number two, she's gonna be like, yeah. No shit, Sherlock. I watch this 8 hours a day, right? So I keep the Bumblenums trivia to myself.
All right, there it is. Listen, that can be just yours. That can be just yours, and that's allowed.
Yeah, that's me and Elliot, the Bumblenums, and all of the
Wow,
lore and all my
that's
fan
great.
fiction.
We were Handy Manny and
Oh yeah, he's still around.
God, what else did we watch so much of when the kids were coming up? Man, there was a few shows, but by and large, I didn't have big TV kids. They were so active and they just wanted to go that it was like we could never. And I'm not joking, guys. My kids are 15 and 13, and just in the last year and a half, are we at a place where they will sit down and watch a movie. We cannot get them to sit down to watch anything other than TikTok.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, that's the weird thing about him too. Is like he goes through these phases of like really loving it and then being like laissez-faire.
Yeah.
So whenever now it's down to a very stable formula, a very stable wave pattern. When he's high on energy, he don't give a shit. Like every once in a while he'll float in, see the thing that I'm watching, and be like meh. But when he goes down on that, when he's more trough and crest, he goes something else.
Something else.
Something else.
Something else.
He's like the Dark Lord from Howard the Duck. Someone else.
Good. That's good. Well, enjoy every moment of it, man. I'm telling you, I know everybody says this to you, but I swear to God, they're going to be 15 tomorrow.
Yeah, it's been a wild ride, and like he's now at that age. Not that this is relevant or pertinent, but I love this point in kids' evolution when they finally take hold of their facial muscles and they start mimicking what you're doing.
Yes.
And so, like the flash of an adult, gesture will go across his face, then he'll go back to like bleh. It's a wild card. It's like
They're just so fun, man. They're just so fun.
Yeah, it's like a lottery. You're pulling the slot machine is what I'm looking for. So, Matthew, I really appreciate you coming on the show. I would
you guys.
like you to plug your stuff. We didn't get into it much, but give us some relevant details of your new endeavor.
So we got a new endeavor. Yeah, Learn from People Who Lived It is a podcast that is put on this planet Earth for really three reasons. The first one is to help people feel like they're not alone. And I say that because we walked through the first series is 9 people who have what I call unimaginable trauma at points of their lives, yet still find themselves on a path to healing. And the interesting thing about our podcast is that we're not talking to these people while they're in their trauma. We're talking to them on the other side of it. And you all know that there's a different lens. We speak about things differently from a couple of years ago versus the time that we're in them.
Yeah, totally.
And so, we have a lot of common themes that almost anybody can resonate to and with: grief, loss, identity, abuse, death, all of the things that come into our world at some point, and really are those things that alter us are in this podcast. And the folks that are being interviewed are really just so eloquently walking through pretty painful journeys and thoughts, right? The episode that's going to come out on Monday, Heather, is, the level of abuse this woman experienced. And she says it in the podcast. She should be dead 3 times by the hands of this man who's in prison now. And that's the only reason she's out of this thing, right? Is like he's in. And so you think about the things that we have to deal with in our life, right? And then you hear a story like that, and I think and while I hate stacking and comparing pain, I do think that it is wonderful to offer perspective too.
Right.
And so you get some stories like that. But what's great is that there's a clinical there's a psychologist, and then there's a healer friend of mine who are both on the podcast as well. And so during the conversation, you have a chance to hit these moments, pause, and look at the psychology of the moment and see what it might have been doing to everybody around. To ask questions like, what would you have liked to have had happen to you in this moment? Because like I said, the podcast is there for a healing place. It's for people to feel like they are less alone. And as we have articulated a few times in our conversation tonight, when you don't know what to do, oftentimes you do nothing. And so if, the goal is to build this thing out and turn it into a huge encyclopedia of stories, so that as you are going through some challenge in your life, you're able to go to this series, type in some keywords, and then, get a few people that pop up that have a similar story to you, right? And we'll get there. We will get there. We're just in our first series right now. But the first series is all about unimaginable trauma, and then it's become crystal clear to me the universe has started to hand me some pretty big signals today, especially that the next series is going to feature veterans and people that have had some war experience and have dealt with some pretty serious PTSR, as I like to call it.
Right.
And so I'm excited about it, and it's starting. The reception has been warm, and it's the reason you guys are able to have us on and talk about it. People are willing to have this conversation now, and that's the part that's so freaking exciting to me. Is that if we all do 1,000,001 things to make ourselves feel good, except for the one thing that we really just should do to make ourselves feel good, which is to set down the things that we don't need to be carrying anymore.
Yeah, you want out of life. You want inertia. You don't want to be inert. Like as soon as you take hold of whatever you call your life, everything, all and sundry that your eyes can survey. That's when the power starts to shift in your direction. And for some people, knowing that there's someone who went through something incredibly similar, because we can all tell ourselves intellectually, sure, this must have happened 1,000,000 times in 14 billion years of the galaxy, estimated. This must have happened, but I have no empirical evidence. Some people need to feel that connection to go, oh, every path is legitimate. So I think you're providing a valuable resource. I've only listened to the first one. I haven't got to the second one yet.
The second one's good. Ryan.
Ryan Penny.
Yeah, that was a good one.
So he's an interesting Air Force vet who lost his ability to walk after a bike accident, and just last year won bronze medal at the Tokyo Paralympics. And so he's an incredible dude, right? Because he's got this one line that I think resonates for all of us, where he says he used to think that recovery meant walking again. And what he's since learned is that recovery means getting a hold of your mental state. And I'm somebody who, again, I hate to compare and stack pain. I think it's a dangerous place to be. Yeah. But if a guy who I know and love can have that thought and that opinion, and he doesn't have the ability to walk like I do, which I consider to be a big thing and a major thing, it forces me to look at myself a little bit more and say, hey, what's going on? You might need to peel some of those layers back yourself, buddy, because it's not all that bad for you right now. And not only is it not all that bad, but there are things that you could just get a hold of these things pretty quickly if you wanted to. So I dig the hopeful message in it.
Yeah, it's an interesting perspective because it's so often that those are all of our inspiring stories, right? Every time somebody, it's always because they pulled their ass out of the fire. They lost everything to come back around. And you say, wow, I wish I could do that. But here's the thing. Before they were forced to, they didn't want to.
Yeah.
You have to take the choice into your own hands. You can't wait for your legs to be chopped off. You can't wait for whatever, all and sundry, everything to fall out from under you so you can build yourself back up, because we sit on this comfy cushion of what we think are ourselves, of what we think are our whatever, our job title, our family status, etc. And if you're lucky, you can figure it out without having those ripped out from under you.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Well, and I think Ryan and Ryan's point was more like, sometimes we think we know it all. Sometimes we think we've got it all figured out. and then something shows up. And now we are forced to completely reinvent ourselves and our way of thinking. And I like that as a common theme because let's look at parenthood, right? Like things are going along fine and then a little baby shows up and now all of it's different. And don't get me wrong, we're excited the baby's here. We like the baby. We love the baby. But it has changed how things operate in ourselves, and that's the first moment where we kind of have to reinvent ourselves a little bit. We turn into a little bit of a different version of ourselves. And so I think with regard to Ryan's story, that to me is the universal truth in there, is that we're all faced with moments where we have to kind of have that day of reckoning, that little moment of, all right, who am I now? And I think we're experiencing that more and more and more now because there's just so many people that are getting sick and honestly are dying, right, with COVID and everything that's happening out there. And there's a lot of families that are asking really big questions right now. And and so I feel like the timing of this and the messaging that's inside some of these stories is they're not only, like I said, universal, but I think they are really hopeful, and that should be the lens in which people consume this with, which is to say, I can do it too.
It's not the go off the beaten path too much, but Ryan seems to possess a quality that is almost exclusively connected with life. It's flexibility.
Yes.
If you can get into a situation and bend and flex and contort, you'll make it out fine. In a windstorm, a tree that is flexible stays.
Well,
it's dry, gonzo.
Yeah.
And that's what'll happen if you go into the frying pan. If you're flexible, Ryan, boom, comes out with flying colors. But if you go in and remain brittle, you have now become the firewood.
Yeah, that, and he was saying, Ryan mentioned how if he had stayed essentially in that, I don't want to say depressed state of like, I can't use my legs anymore.
Yeah,
he was like, everybody else around me is also affected in this. His fiance at the time, he was walking when he proposed, and then he wasn't. And then he got married, and his mother, he was saying, my mom can't dance with me at my wedding. And like, he's like, everybody around me also had to essentially mourn the fact that this happened to him. So he needed to like basically like get his ass in gear.
Oh, it's such a good episode. Everything you said to me is a million reasons to listen to it. He is worth paying attention to, and it should be noted that he does not appreciate, nor does he like the limelight. He does not enjoy me calling him up and saying, "Hey, you're coming on this show with me." But he does it because he knows that there's a story there.
All right, man. Well, here we are. Let's since you're on the show, your staff, we'll just keep plugging your show. My staff recommendation, obviously, and Krista's.
Ditto.
We're going to double and triple down on the show. And if I'm smart and remember, there'll be a link attached to this show. And now I'm saying it out loud, then I'll remember it, hopefully. Or the first person who downloads this, get at me. This is great. Great
That's
content.
great. Yeah, thank you.
People are going to love this conversation. This specific part that I'm now verbal diarrheaing all over.
That's all right.
Jesus Christ. Anyway, guys, that's how we end the show. Mathew, I want to thank you once again for coming on. It's always a blast.
Yeah, thank you, guys. I enjoy it too. We come on, we talk about some real things, man, and that's the lane in which we talked about it many times throughout this conversation about what can you be all the time and what is that thing that you can do all the time. And for me, this is a conversation I could pretty much have 24 hours a day. It's just about staying in alignment and staying with flow and helping people understand that they can set things down and their story doesn't have to own them anymore. They can truly own their story and live their life with less stress and have more and better connections with everybody around them. It's just very possible.
Nothing is beyond. Here's the message I want to close out this on.
Go.
If you ever look at something, I don't care if it's the space shuttle or a piece of marble from the Roman times, someone no better than you did that. No better and no worse, potentially speaking. Pull your head out of your ass, metaphorically, and take a hold of your life. Like, just, to be funny. But, do what you want to do when you want to do it, not because scripted, it's mandated, it's prescribed, it's enforced, it's the unwritten rule, it's our social contract. Within reason, don't be a dick. That's all I got. So we'll see you next time, guys, on Everything Everywhere. Matthew, Krista, we're out of here.
All right, appreciate you guys. Bye-bye.
For the try to
Fistful of Podcasts Radio.
Don't y'all go nowhere. We'll be right back.
What?